Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, where today I have a guest that I'm very excited to have on the pod, Jon Evans, and we actually know each other from our hometown of Bognor Regis. And we've gone down a similar path in regards to, I guess, our morals for helping people understand more about what their why is, helping people be more authentic to themselves, and also, the self-development that you can gain from myself from helping people with physique development, but alongside that, what you can gain, from a mental side of view. And I think a lot of people will relate to what you can get from, anything that is a physical endeavor as well. Would you agree, Jon?
Yeah, definitely. I think, understanding what you truly want in life, it comes down to really, why we're here on this planet.
Yeah.
And I think people choose their careers, people choose their passions, and sometimes they don't realize the real why behind it. And I believe, it's named around a lot, but, your pain creates your power. And I think this is why a lot of people choose bodybuilding and everything, because in their childhood they've had a tough upbringing. They want to show that they can do something and really be passionate about something. And so I think
Yeah, it's really interesting actually you say that, because a lot of people I know have got into bodybuilding because, like you say, the childhood's been quite hard, or there's a lack of control in other areas of life. And then, of course, if you can control your nutrition, your training, and all the other things that contribute to being a bodybuilder, suddenly it's like, oh, I found something that I can be good at through my own control, as it were. Yeah.
definitely.
So do you work with people that are physique-based athletes, or is it more general population as such?
Yeah, so it's more general population. However, we have had some clients who are, they used to be old professional bodybuilders and do all the competitions and that. And there's a lot of women come to me, like, their mums now and everything, and they're just like, they want to get back into their old self and that sort of stuff. So it's really interesting to hear from them as well, because they've gone through that, and then 10 years later what they're doing. And it's really interesting to hear their perspective on how important it was for them. But just like you mentioned about direction, it was a lot of it is, people come to me because they want the direction in life. They've lost their reason, they've lost their purpose, or why they're fallen off track with the habits and everything. And it comes down to discipline. And I think bodybuilding, anything to do with fitness related, is so in touch with just being so focused on discipline, and being disciplined within yourself, because you've got to move yourself to get the results. Whereas it's not like, oh, I can build something and that can do the results for me. It's it's very your mind, your body, and your soul. They've got to do everything. And so I think it's really interesting hearing that from my clients come through as well, and then others who are wanting to come back into that state as well, which is always getting them to the right mindset, or doing major athletes, like people running Ironmans come to me. I've got a few people I sponsor, professional rugby players, professional racing car drivers, and that sort of stuff as well. So there's all round to the mindset, but again, it comes down to the physical appearance as well, because they've got sport, which is endurance.
Yeah, for sure. So being a wellness coach, do you have people come to you? Is it more the mindset that they come to you for, or do you deal with the sort of physical side of things as well?
Yeah, so mainly I partnered up with a company who was more of a fitness coach, and we kind of brought it in together to create like a virtual wellness academy, because it's mainly a lot of our audience is over in Australia, so different struggling time zones, but it's all good. But with that being said, it's a lot of the audience who are getting drawn to us. And he had he was my old fitness coach, which many years ago, and he got me the confidence and really the energy for me to go out and build my business. And then I hit the ground running, became quite successful in that area. And then I was just like, I don't want to build this on my own. I want to have a team around me. So we had chats, and then we were just like, yeah, let's grow this together, but let's add parts that maybe potential other people in the industry aren't thinking about, because there's a lot of things that nutrition, like health and focusing on workouts and that. And I'm like, well, what about the nervous system? What about our breath? What about mindfulness? What about wellness? So we've literally combined them two together, and it's really hit the ground running. Found like a sweet spot which people are really interested in. people who have, mainly parents, are just, they're looking after the kids. They just don't have any energy. So we're just helping them in that respect. And it's such an amazing achievement to, I've coached thousands of people, and it wakes me up every single day. I just love it. Don't matter what time my client needs to call me, I'll be on the phone and I'll be helping them and transforming them. So
yeah, for sure. I definitely find meeting people along the way, coaching people, or just, meeting people in general life, when you go into being a parent, you sort of can forget who you are, your own identity, because of course, a lot of people, when they have children, the child is the main focus because you want to, give it your all and be a good parent. And then suddenly they start to grow up, or they hit a point where they're like, who am I now? What do I enjoy? What is going to get me going if, when the child's going to school and various other things? And it's like, okay, who am I anymore? So I guess that's something that you work with as well.
yeah, definitely. So they come to us, and when we're chatting, I'm chatting about their goals, why they're here, because we have a whole sales team, and they come in and they chat to me, and it's just like their biggest thing is like, I want to be me. Like, I've done so many times just being the mum, but I'm not, Rachel, I'm not Sally, I'm not Gemma. And it's like, wow, like taking that into consideration is like, yeah, let's really work around that. But we know it's more going to be working with the mind and the beliefs that they have around them, their identity. They've just created it as being a mum, and hey, full right, they're an incredible parents.
For sure, yeah.
But it's also they feel that they're not themselves anymore because of they've taken that role on, and they've embodied that label, should we say. And they want to be, they want to be the active mum that can run around after the kids, rather than sitting on the sofa and like, shouting at them saying, come here, that sort of stuff. So it is, it's great to watch them as well, and watch them transform and just see how far they've come, which is a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And also, when you are a parent, to be able to see your child succeed, but then for you to be a role model, I think that's really important. And a lot of people that get into competing later in life, it's like the child comes to the shows and they sort of, I guess, they see the discipline that the parent is putting into whatever sport that may be, or even career wise, people listening to this might find that they're really career driven, and that can take away from identity as well, because you're the CEO of a company or whatever your title is, and then you get home at night and it's like,
yeah, so it is kind of very much like that. They just create that identity, they create that way of living, and then they don't know the two sides. They could be working, and then they come home, and then they're still working, and it's just not how they want to live their life. And especially with being a role model, they want to prove to themselves, but only prove to their kids. And a lot of them, when we ask about their whys, it's their kids, and it's just like, well, you invest so much into your kids, but you're trying to be the best role model you possibly can. And what about investing in yourself? Like, that's going to make you an incredible role model for your child, and that's going to be the best investment that they would want for you. Which is an amazing thing. And health is health is your wealth, and it really is. And as long as you prioritize it, as long as you can truly live a purposeful and fulfilling and authentic life and meaningful life, you're going to do well in life, and you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. Is there certain things that you sort of, I guess, have like a foundational structure in regards to what you start to work on with people and then work your way through as you get to know them more?
Yeah, that's it. So we always establish the foundations, like just keeping them, creating them, their non-negotiables. So they really understand what there is. We create them like a little mission statement, so they know what what's it costing them if they were going to stay the same. Like, really go in depth, kind of the why, really understanding their why, and we get them to do different exercises every morning. But yeah, just different challenges that can help them really start questioning their life, better themselves as well, and cater their well-being as well, which is something fascinating to witness, because they start realizing that a lot of this stuff I'm doing, and I'm like, yeah, it's simple, but then they're getting so many epiphanies, so many breakthroughs just by simply different word changes that they're using throughout the day. And it's so beautiful to watch them, just to share in our community that how they're feeling. It's really amazing just to see that, like, a simple thing on a morning routine or an evening routine or in the day can radically change how they see their week, how they see their month, and how they see their year. and those around them as well, including their environment. So so there's little foundations that we teach them, different blocks, to help them along the way.
Yeah, because of course that ties into negative self-talk, which again is something that's heavily related with physique development. Because, you know, when you're on this journey of physique development, whether you're prepping for a show and losing weight, whether you're gaining weight in a growth phase, or whether, you know, even if you're committing to a diet, like you've got that tunnel vision on that. And then it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And then you sometimes forget how far you've actually come. And then this self-talk, especially transition in between different phases as a bodybuilder, you know, it is hard, especially after getting to your leaner point and going into that off-season phase, which a lot of the listeners will be going through at the moment because it is the end of the season. Is there any, I guess, tips that you could share in regards to negative self-talk and turning that around?
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest thing is as well is a lot of us, especially like, you know, people in, you know, the physique development and bodybuilding side of things as well, is, you know, their physical image is an awful lot to them, but so many times they see it for an external factor. Like you're wanting to get a medal, you're wanting to get a trophy. And it's like, what do you see in the mirror? And I think mirror work is something that can radically change how you see yourself. And I think it changed my life, you know, just looking at myself. And I wasn't a person who smiled all the time, but I realized how much of a smile can radically change your whole day and life. And all I did was every single morning, I just looked in the mirror and I smiled for a minute. 60 seconds. I can take 60 seconds to look at myself and smile. And you start realizing that you start looking at yourself and start loving yourself more because you have that time. You've given yourself that time. And I think so many times we negatively self-talk because of them situations where everything is external. And I truly believe, you know, how you take care of your internal world is how the external world will take care of you. And, you know, if you're wanting to compete, if you're really wanting to go to the next level and go through these different phases, you need to embody that. It's just like, you know, if you can, there's that famous quote, whereas, you know, if you don't, if none of us wanted change, then the saddest thing is that butterflies are never going to exist. And if we think about that, like you're in an element of changing, and that's what we do. We get to change, we get to develop, we get to grow. And in them changes, we get to understand that we're a being. You know, you're the same person you are when you're, you know, 20 kilos heavier than you are, or when you're cutting. It's all these different areas. You're that same individual, you're that same beautiful soul. However, it's how you look at yourself, it's how you define yourself. And that negative self-talk always going to pop in because it's going to relate back to when you were at your best self. The challenge is you need to celebrate more often to know that these, like you said, these little ways are doing better. And I think so many times if you've got like a period where you've got like growth, you know, months, you know, you're wanting to bulk, you're wanting to growth phase, or you wanted to cut down, and you got months in, and it's like, oh, you know, I've got weeks left. No, it's just day one. It's day one, and I'm just going to go. You know, it's maybe maybe a 90-day phase, but guess what? It's day one, and every day is a new day. Just treat it as, you know, 1 day program for 90 days. So every day you're going to show up being that best self. Because when you first started it, you had a story, you had a passion, you had excitement, you had a reason to light yourself up every single day. That hasn't gone. All that's happened is you've got so many more external things that are not helping you. And the moment we take that moment is we can sit down.
I think that definitely relates as well heavily to being present, because, you know, especially in the phase where you're losing weight, when that gets into a severe deficit, when you're closer to the competition, you are getting to the point where almost each day you've got to get through that day and tick the boxes, as it were. And that's a lot of bodybuilders will say, I'm ticking the boxes, I'm fine. But you're not actually that present in yourself because, of course, the energy expenditure is high. The food you're taking in is getting lower, and it's hard because you're preserving energies. But I found that, like you've sort of outlined there, if I can be in touch with myself each day and get out of bed and go, okay, I've got these boxes to tick, but I've also got these things that are going to nourish myself and I'm going to take enjoyment from, it really does help the process. But it's quite hard to learn that as a habit, isn't it?
It really is. And there's one thing that was a big shift for me is that so many times we have a to-do list.
Yeah.
You know, you like you're saying, you're ticking the tick box. But when was the last time that you wrote a to-be list? How did you want to be today? That's really how we should start our day, rather than a to-do list.
Yeah.
Because a to-do list means that you've got to do it no matter what. A to-be list means you get to do it. And a really big, you know, word transformation, word shift is, rather than saying I have to do this, it's I get to. And when we say I get to, you get to create a better sense of, wow, I get to choose this. I'm choosing this path. And it's a simple word shift, but it can radically change how you feel about yourself when going through that list, because you know that that list, the first 3 things are about you, not about what you need to eat, what you need to drink, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And what exercise you need to do. It's what do you do for yourself? And you know, a lot of it is one of our lists in our daily rituals is, you know, throughout the day, in the day, to manage your stress is to do one thing that makes you happy. It sounds so simple, but when was the last time you actually did that into your day? Think to yourself. If it was last week, last month, well, don't you want to do that every day?
Yeah.
And like, these simple things can radically change that self-talk, you know, that mind, because we're bringing more conscious, we're being more present. And, you know, I think especially in bodybuilding, we're like, when you're doing your, you know, your sculpting, when you're standing up on stage and that, if you think, or your dance, however you want to name it, you've got to be fully conscious. You've got to be fully present. And you don't wait years or months to go on stage to then just have 2 minutes of being conscious.
Yeah. Amen.
Don't you want to be conscious every minute of the day and realize why you're doing this, and realize that, yeah, you are putting your body to the limits, but you're just like another athlete who puts their body to the limits in a different way.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
This is definitely, it relates as well to, you know, what your placing is when you compete. I always find, you know, I go into each competition and I think everyone's done what I've done, or to a degree of, you know, you don't know the exact what everyone's put in, but everyone deserves to be on that stage, and there's got to be a winner. Now, if you don't place in the top 3 and you get a podium finish, or if you don't win and that's what you were setting out to do, that doesn't take away from your journey to get to that point. And, you know, people prep for 6, 8, however much longer months to be there. Every single day you wake up and you've got that, you know, to-do list. And then, like you say, you get 2 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes on stage. That's all you get. And then if you're going to quantify your success of that prep as your placing, and if you don't get the placing you wanted, you can really fall off the back of that show and be in a very dark place. It's really, really scary.
Very much. And that can come down to a huge area of just a simple, again, pattern shift, is rather than, you know, expecting a lot, you're just appreciating. And I think so many times, I read a book, and if none of you have read it, definitely highly recommend. It's called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. And he speaks about a Buddha in this garden, and there's a path, and at the end of the path is a giant diamond. You know, what you want, what the Buddha wanted was a giant diamond. I don't know how he was going to move it, but it was there. All right. But what he never appreciated was that along the path was all these little tiny diamonds. And what we do is we see the end result, we see the medal, we see the competition as that's it, that's it. But it's never is. You know, you hear many athletes say it's never the end game. It's the training, that's what matters. That is what it is. And I think so many people, we get so clued up into the big diamond. We don't look around and be conscious of, like, hang on a minute, if I pick up all these diamonds, I've got more than that big diamond.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just using diamond as an analogy, but it's so important because we are all a diamond in life. We're all, you know, it took us, billions of things had to go right for us to be on this planet.
Yeah.
And if we don't acknowledge that and appreciate that, what are you really going to that competition for? To get a piece of metal?
Yeah. I listened to a podcast recently about this. You know, what you put into bodybuilding, especially in this sport. You know, you're going into such a severe deficit and becoming incredibly lean. You're putting your health at risk, as it were, you know, if we're being blunt about it, especially females. You know, there's a loss of menstrual cycle, there's hormonal changes, and in men there's lots of things that happen, and you know, you're putting yourself to the absolute severe. And if that's for a plastic trophy, and you're not taking anything from the journey of being a bodybuilder, and of course there's not much money in it either, you know, it's not like there's big cash prizes, things like this, which could be a motivator for people. It's like, after that show and you find yourself there and you maybe haven't got the placing you wanted, it's like, what do I do now? And of course the goal is removed in a sense, but what I like to do with my coach and my own clients is talk about the post-show period before the competition. So okay, so once the competition is done, this is our next motivation. And similar to what you said there about the small diamonds, like mini goals along the way, and I'm sure that's probably what you do as well. And
100%.
then you've got the big goal, like the big goal is almost like the cherry on top.
It is, but it's also knowing, here's the thing, so many people, you've probably seen this, so many people will win a competition, get what they wanted, and then they will never do it again. They go back and then they completely forget. The reason is because the hardest thing is to actually achieve the goal. You should never achieve the goal and then not have anything next. Like you said, what's the post? What happens next? Because we could do that. Think about it. If you didn't know what to do after you did your GCSEs, or if you did your university, if you don't know what you're going to do, you're just going to not do anything.
Yeah.
And you've got to, just because of the cherry on top, yeah, you might have that at first, and then you get to enjoy the cake.
Yeah.
Or you have it last, however you want to eat it. But you need to bring the awareness to, if this is my end result, what's next?
Yeah.
Because I say it to especially a lot of the athletes I speak to, is like, it's never that final race. It's where's next. And I'm always chatting to them, what's next? What's next? Because once we know what's next, we're now manifesting what we want, what we desire, what our life to be like, rather than just manifesting that win. Like, if you're only hungry for that win, the minute you achieve it, you have no idea what you're going to do next.
Yeah. And the manifestation is, I feel like over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, it's become more apparent for people and more out there and more accepted, I guess, because when I first heard of manifestation, I thought, what's all this?
Yeah.
And then it was like, I started exploring it, and I actually had a PT client that was very, very intelligent, and he did some, I guess, I was his guinea pig on a few of the things that he was sort of testing out with clients. And some of the stuff that he got me to do in regards to manifestation, the first show that I actually won in 2019, I'd done some, it was mostly before bed were probably the most powerful ones, going to bed and visualizing being on
visualizing,
and visualizing what that would be like, and also like hearing the crowd cheering, things like this. And then he also got me to do this it was like a little project. We were in the middle of a PT session. He was like, right. And he got me to close my eyes, imagine being at the competition, and then walk forward into winning a show and how that would feel, and like really try and feel that in my body, in my mind. And that would be what I would do before bed. And then when I went to the show and won, it was almost like I was replaying what I'd already done, and it was incredible. Like, I couldn't believe, and that was, for me, that was like that icebreaker into how mindset does matter so much.
100%. And I think, like what you just explained there is it happened to me. And I think sometimes like 5 years ago, I had a dream to work with these two people, and I'm now working with them today.
Yeah.
And how that life happened was, I never forced it. I just allowed. I was myself, and then it got drawn in, and then boom, these things happened. And it's an incredible situation to see and to witness. And I think, like you mentioned about manifest and just visualizing, it is so important, because we visualize, all we think is, oh, that's what it's going to be like. No, how's it going to feel? Because guess what? If it's being, then you've got to be there. If it's feeling, you can feel that right here, right now.
Yeah.
And that means that the confidence, the certainty, and the conviction you have standing on that stage, performing, is literally going to be the best feeling ever, because you're reliving a dream.
Yeah. And it's so important as well, because like we touched on earlier, you know, being on stage for however long, it might be only a few minutes, and you've worked every single day to get to that point. And sometimes, because people, you know, bodybuilding is a sport where you are restricting yourself a lot. So I meet a lot of competitors that get to the point where they just want the prep to be over and the competition to be over, so they can then eat and, I guess, do what they want to do, as it were. And that takes it back to, you know, having that coaching through that period of time as well, because you're choosing to do this sport. You get to the competition, you don't want to be there, you get your small time on stage, it's over, and then you've got this whole world of exploring of, I can do and eat and, you know, whatever I want to do. Again, another scary post-show feeling to suddenly have that, like, I guess, freedom. You know, people that have been institutionalized for a set period of time. I don't know if you work with people that have got a goal that is very institutionalized, and then they've got more freedom and it's hard to transition.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is as well is the, you know, the level of commitments that they've put on there, not as much as the or the level of, we would say, to physique, you know, bodybuilding side of things. But the other thing is as well is, like, it's life can become so chaotic that they discard themselves, and then they look at all of these habits that are very simple but are very complex, because it's like, how on earth am I going to have it? And I literally was speaking to a client yesterday, not yesterday, on Saturday, and she was explaining to me, she was like, John, but I don't have time to do all of this. And I said, what we're not realizing is that there's a lot of things. She's like, but I have a lot of time. I said, this is the switch. We're now taking out that time and replacing all of the bad in with the good. So now you're going to be more effective with your time. But so many people don't understand that, because they've been in such a habit of being in that day-to-day. They don't know how to look at it in a different, you know, they've got their blinkers on, they're literally going. Yeah. And I'm just there like, no, you just need to move left, like, slightly. And we're able to see it. And it's, I think that clarity is, you know, us being coaches is a phenomenal thing. As you know, we get to, you know, my clients love it, because they're like, John, you just catch out my blind spots. Yeah. You know, you can just pat and interrupt me and get me back into line. And I think it's so important for even yourself to bring yourself into awareness. And I think us talking about being so present, being so conscious of the journey, not just the 2, 10, however minutes on stage, is literally reflecting and asking yourself, like, I have these 5 powerful questions, okay, which I learned from my coach. Phenomenal. What's working? What's not working? What could be better? What can I acknowledge myself for? And then what did I learn? Every day you ask yourself these questions, you're going to start realizing that you're going to appreciate the journey way more than you've ever done before.
Yeah. What have I done well today, for a start? You know, in bodybuilding, there's so many life skills and daily wins that you can gain every single day. But because you become, I guess, robotic, because you've got this end date of a competition, you forget how much you're achieving in each day. And it's not till I sometimes speak to people that are away from bodybuilding and they say, oh, what goes into a day? And I sort of list it off and they're like, what? And then I'm like, wow, I am doing quite well. But I think you do forget that.
You do. And it's bringing yourself back to, again, seeing the little diamonds. You know, when we're so fixated on something, here's the thing, you know, it's like, you know, our reticular activating system. Okay. So whenever you have an experience where, you know, you buy a new car, or you know, you see a not very nice color car and you're like, I've never seen that color before. And then 10 minutes later, you start seeing 5 of them. What you're basically doing is your reticular activate, your RAS is kicking in. And it's just basically what you're focusing on is what you're going to be seeing. And because you don't focus it on a normal day, you know, we used to do, you know, do you remember when younger, doing all the yellow cars or pink cars, that sort of thing? Yeah. You know, when we were driving, like, you would never see them. But then when you start talking about it on another day, you then start seeing loads of them, because you're bringing your awareness to them. You're spotting them all the time. And I think we're especially in competition phases or even goal setting. I truly, I say this to all my clients. I want you to appreciate the goal, but I want you to enjoy the journey. Because if everything didn't go perfectly, you can still define so many wins during this journey about what you've created, what you've learned, what you're excited about, how you're going to feel, rather than just that end moment. And that means that end moment, you're going to have way more fun. And that's what it's all about. Like anything, you've got to go out and have fun. When we're kids, it's the last thing. It's just go and have fun. And we're big kids. That's all we are. So when you stand up on stage and that, you just have fun. And those who have fun are those who are pretty much the ones who are going to win it.
Yeah. And if you have fun as well, even when I don't place at a competition, when I reflect on the day, because I get up on show morning and I'm like, today my motivation is to have fun. Everyone wants to win because that's why we're competing. Well, most people, there's a drive to do well. But if you have fun, you also give off these energies to your community, the people that have done the same as you. And actually you can empower other people, they can empower you, and you can make lifelong friends in sports, different communities, wherever your direction is. But I think that if you go into anything with this sort of suppressed bad energy, you're not going to attract the right people towards you as well, and be able to share this journey, because it can be shared in such a cathartic way.
Very much so. It's like for like. What you feel inside is what you're going to get outside. There's a lot of people kind of things like, oh, that person did wrong. Karma. Well, karma comes both ways, and when you really think about it, you can create the positive and you can create the negatives in your life. It's just whatever you want to focus on, because that's where all your energy is going to be, like all your attention is going to be on. So I think especially with environments and communities, it really is like, that's how I've been able to build a big following and everything, was because literally I was myself, and I was like, Jon, you need to psych yourself up. You need to keep yourself motivated, not motivated, but disciplined to keep doing what you're doing. And I'm like, why don't I just shoot a video? And that video, don't care who watches it. It's going to be me talking to me, and I'm going to watch myself. Yeah. And now I was literally watching them, and I'm just like, these have impacted so many people. The comments are just absolutely, it brings me to tears. But I was like, Jon, you started that just because you decided that you needed a little pickup. You needed that little bit of positivity, and you thought, well, I could see it, I could get it outlined, but I didn't really want to be on social media all the time. So I was like, well, if I just record myself a video, I can just watch that video whenever I want. Yeah. And it gives me that reminder. And, it's so wonderful to do. And it's just something that we need to take into consideration, is like, you are your biggest cheerleader.
For sure.
You can be, but you have to choose to be.
Yeah. It is hard. It's hard.
It is, because we're always, there's a lot of us, we want to feel heard, we want to feel seen, and we want to feel understood. So that basically means we need to be validated. We need to feel significant. And the way we feel validation, significance, is what? From others. Because when we're younger, it's like, oh, you're not feeling significant if you don't have friends.
Yes.
But guess what? You can be your best friend. Mm-hmm. Because the secret is with loneliness, is if you're feeling lonely, it's because you don't like being with the person you are alone with. And if that's with yourself, then that's the work that needs to be happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I often say this with life changes myself. It wasn't until I learned to love myself that I found love in someone else. Yeah. And it's amazing, because it literally wasn't until I was able to go, do you know what, if I am alone, if I'm, going to spend the rest of my life as just me, then I need to work on myself to learn to love myself. And I got to a point where I was like, do you know what, if that's how it's going to pan out, I'm going to be on my own. And then I met the love of my life, and it was like, wow. And it couldn't be any better. And again, it's enjoying and being present with other people. If you find these connections, whether that's friends or a partner, who you have, your tribe, as it were, your people. And I think it's something that feeds into quite nicely as well. I recently did some stuff on Instagram about this, about not being scared to reassess your circle. And if someone isn't serving you too well, or your energies aren't being received and reciprocated, it's okay that you've grown apart. You can move on. But again, that's a very hard thing in life to say goodbye to. I've said goodbye to friends that I've had friendships for over 10 years, but it wasn't the right friendship anymore because we've gone different paths. Do you come across this type of thing as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I kind of like use it as like you can have them as energizing and energy draining, and you've got to rank them. You've got to give them on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are they in your, and if they're below a 7, you need to reevaluate, because what you're also doing is you're not allowed, if your day or your week is, got all the circles, say you got a box and you got all these circles and they're associating the size of how much that person or thing impacts your life. So it could be work, it could be family, it could be gym, it could be, self-care, it could be what all these are, eating, nutrition, this sort of stuff, and then friends. And depending on the size is how much effort they're involved in your life. So, it could be a lot. Like work's a big majority of people's lives. But then just because it's a big priority, where would you rank it with? Is it energy draining or energizing? And if it's below 7, then you've got to reevaluate that, because look at that big size. It means that half your life is never going to get over a 7 because of what you're doing. And I had to make a consideration with that with my friends, because it's like I stopped drinking for a reason, because I didn't like the person I was. I'm 4 years sober, and it was a choice, because the person I had to create an identity, and I didn't like that person because I had no confidence. So you pick the drink.
Sure.
But then the people you hang around with choose you for who you are, that person, when you are drinking. So when you step away, it's like, oh, well, if they call me and say, hey, do you want to go for a drink or something? I'm like, yeah, let's go for dinner. And if they don't choose dinner, it's like, are they actually a friend?
Yeah.
Are they actually wanting to be around you and learn from you and grow together? And I think, just like you're saying about partners, I think, it's so important when you work on yourself, or you're working on your career and that sort of thing, then them communities, them tribes, them environments, and them people start coming into your life, because you start doing the inner work. And when you start doing the inner work, you start accepting and realizing that, wow, I'm actually in a really, really good place. I know how to love me. So that means that people come into my life, I know if they are nourishing me or depleting me, because I know exactly what I did for 10 years, because I was depleting myself every single day.
Yeah, it's the same for me though, isn't it? It's like early adulthood, drinking is a very common thing for most people, and you often mask it. Again, with bodybuilding, you can mask insecurities and a lack of control in your life, like you do with alcohol, drugs, whatever it may be. And then you are, like you described there, you're having to step into this sort of alter ego person. If it's drinking, you're like this party animal and everyone likes you. And back to that school analogy of, I've got friends, so that means I must be a good person, I must be doing well. But then when you strip it back, I've got clients that have then gone for dinner with someone they used to drink with, and they've got nothing to talk about.
And this is what happens in relationships.
Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of the relationships, how do they meet? They met him at a nightclub. And I'm not dissing any of that, but I'm like, is that the environment that you want to have a conversation with the person who could be the love of your life? Because are you in a good place then, or you're insecure? Are you trying to find something? And there's always these questions that we can ask ourselves, and all it is questions. The quality of questions will determine the quality of your life.
Yeah, because in relationships, again, people don't communicate, and it is something that can be quite hard, or you can shy away from. If something's stressing you out or aggravating you, you can easily just think, no, I'll put it to the back of my mind. And I've been there in relationships before, and then that leads to that, all that resentment and those feelings, and then things get out of control and there's no turning back. Whereas if you can communicate from the start and just say, this isn't serving me well, or can we talk about this and work on this together, then you can become a team and you can work on it together and enjoy things together. But it's so true, like you say, about life and being in that, I guess, that tunnel vision of any walk of life. You just forget to communicate and enjoy and all of the things that are going to contribute to you actually living rather than existing.
And that's the big thing. And I think, you know, an exercise that all of your followers could do, or your viewers could do, is literally whenever you're in a busy high street, stop. Not on the road, but stop. Because honestly, just stop and just witness and see how fast people are walking. And that tells me that they're busy living a busy life. They're not appreciating what they're doing or what they have or how they're being in this world. And, you know, you can tell that by rain. The minute it rains, what happens to people? They panic, they fear, they run. And it's like, well, that's what you do with your thoughts. And it's like those who are content are those who are walking in the rain and enjoying it, stepping into the puddles and that sort of stuff. Because, you know, you need to live that life, because there's many people who can't get outside, who aren't able to walk outside and jump in the puddles. And when you start realizing that, you start taking your life for a real appreciation. And I think then you start enjoying more of the journey, like you are walking down that high street. You know, I found it massively in London. You know, London's such a chaotic place. When you just stop and you just stand and you watch, it's really eye-opening to realize just how busy people want to live their lives. And then you speak to them and then they're just like, life's just so busy. Yeah. It's so chaotic. And I'm like, well, when was the last time you brought, you know, a bit of order to it, a bit of calmness to it? Well, I don't have time for that. And I'm like, so you would prioritize chaos rather than order. You know, it's yin and yang. They're both in and out. It's both the same thing. You just have to prioritize it. And if you want to prioritize chaos, you're going to develop more chaos in your life.
Yeah. And of course, that leads to anxieties, mental health patterns that aren't going to serve you, because a lot of people do quantify being busy as successful. But actually, when you ask people, you know, what do you enjoy in your life? What is it that brings you success? They can't actually answer it. But in their mind, if they're always on the go and they're always busy, they're successful. And I think that, again, relates to, you know, physique development, different sports. You know, what is the success? Why are you doing this? And also remembering that this journey is a choice. And like you say there, some people don't get to step in the puddles. Some people don't get to take part in a sport, especially like bodybuilding, that is, you know, you're being able to control it, you're being able to put in, and what you get out is a direct return. But some people can't afford to eat, whereas you're choosing to eat less, to get leaner, to feel like you're looking better. But you forget that when you're, you know, so hyper focused and busy. It's actually, remember, we're in a privileged position here. And it's so important.
Yeah, it is something that a lot of us need to wake up to. You know, from time to time, I always need to pinch myself and realize that look at the life I'm living. Look how extremely grateful I am, and it's such a privilege to do, especially in the, you know, the act of service, you know, role of what we do is a career. It's such an incredible thing. But there's so many coaches out there who are just being busy. They just want the more success, and it's just like, is it that success, or you just still don't know what you want in life?
Yeah. And also your clients, you know, if you're working with competitors, you know, I wouldn't want to just work with only people that win, because for me it's so fulfilling. I work with people that don't compete, and very similar to what you said at the start, it's the most satisfying job for people to realize their own potential. For me, that's whether they compete or they don't compete, it's helping people realize what they're actually capable of. And it's amazing. And where you said about, you know, people that are older and they've done disciplined sports in the past maybe, and then they've gone into motherhood, or, you know, they're a dad, or whatever that may be, and then they realize they can regain control again, but maybe to a lesser degree, but still do amazing things. And it's like, it's just the best job in the world, isn't it?
It is. I've got one client. It's just like, it's so amazing to see them just witness, like, after the weeks go by, it's just, you know, you just see it when you jump on a Zoom call with them, and you just see them bright up, and it's just their energy is just completely different. to me, that's like the most fulfilling thing, and it's why I do what I do, because I absolutely love it. I love just seeing that transformation. It's amazing. Like my first ever career was the gardener, was a landscaper, so I was transforming gardens, and now I'm transforming lives. And I think I just feel so privileged to be able to have my part in digging the ground and making a garden look beautiful, but then also now making people feel beautiful. And also they did it on their own terms. I'm just coaching them, I'm just guiding them. And like you mentioned about them truly understanding and getting that concept of like, you see them make the breakthrough.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't want to tell you the answer because you're so close.
Yeah. And it's so nice.
It really is. It really is. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's a new job, if it's, looking after the kids, if it's just bringing awareness. But it's such a fascinating thing, because you can truly know you're bringing that contentment towards yourself, and that breakthrough, is so important for each and every one of us, whether you're the coach, whether you're the client, whether you're the friend, whether you're the partner. It's just so fascinating to watch, because it all revolves around, my favorite word is perspective. It's just perspective. And when you can look at your life in a different perspective, you can truly change your life.
Yeah, because it relates as well to people, I get a lot of, maybe I'm too old to do X, Y, and Z, or I'll never be X, Y, and Z. And straight away, I try and say to people, first of all, you're your own person, and you've got your own environment, your own structure, your own non-negotiables, the things that you have commitments to. What we're going to do is work to expand your life and how you feel about yourself, rather than you're not going to get to X, Y, and Z level, because it's so relative to where the person is. And this is where it's important to work with people on a bespoke level. Like you say, is success having loads of clients and being really busy, or is it having X amount of clients that you can really nurture and work with? And I think that goes across into whatever you commit to in life. If you overcommit, then guess who's going to take the slack? And if you then overcommit and you don't do it to a level that you're happy with, again, you're going to have that self-talk on a negative. I haven't done it to the best level. And I think it's really important for people to look at things like you mentioned, non-negotiables, because then you're going into that each and every day with, this is my non-negotiables, and this is what I want to enjoy. And it's almost like plotting out your day, isn't it? And then the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's the one. It's really the one word is intention. Like, what is your intention for that day? Yes, it may be you're on a journey, you're on a growth, you're on a drop, you're on a a new career path, whatever that is. You're going to be a parent, whatever that is. But it's the intention, because the intention that you bring to something is going to radically change how you see whatever that goal is, whatever that journey is in there. And it's definitely an area to be focusing on, that I believe more people need to focus on as well. So, which will help them.
Is there certain things that you work on people with to find their why? Because I think a lot of people struggle to, I think they have it in there, but they're not maybe 100% sure as to what the why is that they're going to commit to a goal, or whatever that path may be.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for the why is really first up, writing down all the things you love, and then really defining about, okay, all these things I really love, what do I, if I wasn't, I basically done every career I've done it not because I'm going to get paid, but because I love it. So my passion is always led, and that's created the success. And what I've realized is that this is where the why comes in. So many people are like, well, I can't make a living on that. And that is one extent. Like, you've got to make it, is it going to be affordable to live the life that you want to live? Because you may want to do this, but yeah, you may want to live this sort of life.
Yeah.
And it may be two very, very different, but that could always be a passion, but it may not be your your be all end all about what you want to create. So for me, is literally taking it all the way down, and just finding what you're passionate about. Also, it may be really hard to understand, but there's a reason for it. Like I said, your pain creates your power. Understanding what your biggest struggles were in life. And for me, it was talking, communicating. And now I pretty much communicate to people all over the world on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I never realized what I ended up doing is I started understanding behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was so scared to speak to someone, I would just acknowledge their behavior and think, well, that person's sad, that one person's happy. And I started understanding their emotions.
Mm.
And then when I'd have a conversation with them, it would actually be like, whoa, why do you know I'm like this? And how do you feel like this? And it wasn't, it was just because I literally just got it from how they're feeling by what I'm seeing. Because when I was a kid, nowhere was I talking to anyone.
Mm.
Okay. So my pain, me struggling, I'm now leveraging that. Okay. So yeah, so it's understanding your passions, finding what was a really, really painful situation in life that you have a result in. What was something that you really did and you were committed to and you followed through? And then also just potentially asking and thinking, okay, how can I serve the world? Because at the end of the day, we're all here to be of service. And if you really want to discover your why, it's doing something that you love, that you enjoy, but also that means you're going to give to others.
Mm-hmm.
Because secret to living is giving. And I've realized that massively by me doing a lot of non-profit stuff and that sort of stuff. Every time I do it, it makes me realize that the more I do my job, the more I get to impact the world. And it's such a good feeling. So your why will always come to you. It's never something that you have to force, but it's something you have to be fully conscious of and be mindful of. So I was saying, looking at the diamonds around you rather than the big diamond ahead, you're never going to discover your purpose, your why, if you're just staring at the big diamond.
Yeah. And you're going to, of course, lose that present feeling. That it wasn't until I worked on being present that I realized how impactful it was. Because, you know, when you meet with someone you haven't seen for a while and you're thinking, okay, so after this, I've got to go home and do X, Y, and Z, you haven't really immersed fully in that time. Whereas when I started to practice this, because I've got a very busy mind myself anyway, and it sort of runs away with what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I, try and remove that, and I'm asking open-ended questions and I'm answering, and I've got full intention in that present moment. It's like, it's a out of body experience at first, because you're like, wow, I'm getting so much from just being with a friend having a coffee, and you've never had that before. And that could be, as a bodybuilder, say in a prep, that 1 hour in your day, that could be so fulfilling to allow you to box off all those other tasks with a smile on your face, rather than waking up thinking, oh, I've got to go for my walk, I've got to go and do my food, I've got to go and do this. You can put things in your day, like you said towards the start, about what are you going to enjoy from today.
That's it. Yeah. What do you get to do rather than I have to do? I have to go for a walk. No, you get to go for a walk.
Yeah,
Like bring in that gratitude, bring in that appreciation, and then you're truly being present. And when you're walking, you're being mindful. You're looking around. Yeah, you may be having a podcast in or listening to some music, but then take it out and just walk and just witness it. And it's, interact with people, smile, give someone a compliment, and realize that, you can make that half an hour walk more enjoyable when you actually know that you're on a walk, rather than just be like, oh, just got to go off. Okay, I'll be back in an hour and go.
Yeah.
All right. So these are the simple tips that we can, anyone can try, and just it's all about repetition. It's staying consistent. As you know, if you're going to get on stage and be at your best, the only way you're going to be able to achieve that is by staying consistent. And don't beat yourself up if you've fallen off the the bandwagon or whatever it is. It's just acknowledge yourself and say, okay, ask them questions. What's working? What's not working? What could be better? What can I acknowledge myself? And what did I learn? They're only mistakes if you treat it a mistake. You can treat it as a lesson and learn from them.
Yeah, because of course, physique development, when you go through the different phases and off the back of a show, if you were to eat more than you thought you were going to, or you should have, in inverted commas, or, you completely go off track, you can regain that at any point. But I think with anything, in relation to this, if you achieve something and then that goal is removed if you haven't got a goal in place for after whatever it is you're looking to achieve, you know, if you're not taking steps in the direction that you know is positive because that goal is not there and there's nothing there that you're aiming for, you know, just be kind to yourself and start thinking about what your goals are and allow yourself to take control rather than go down a detrimental path.
That's it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
It's such a, physique development is such a hard sport in regards to the mental side of it. And there's always this pressure, you know, as you mentioned earlier about social media. I used to find, I don't know if I want to be that present on social media, and now I take enjoyment from it. And in relation to social media, you know, the pressures that we now find ourselves under to, you know, be a certain person on the highlight reel of Instagram, you know, you're constantly looking at other physiques and how well other people have done. But of course, a lot of people don't share the challenges they're facing and the, you know, lessons that they've learned through something like this sport. And I think it's so relevant to touch on that as well in regards to how that can affect your mindset.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, if you really think about it, is like, you know, like we were saying, like for like, and if you're seeking that, you're not going to be able to fill up your cup. You know, there's a reason, like, I unfollowed an awful lot of people on my Instagram because I was using it as, wasn't jealousy. It was more like just envious of these people. Like, wow, look at the life they're living. And I'm like, well, John, that's not helping you because now you're not feeling good about what you're seeing. So just unfollow them. And if they come back into your life, they'll come back into your life. But they'll come back into your life at the right time rather than you forcing it. Because then, you know, the more we attract into that, the more we're going to be going down that route of comparing and, you know, comparison and judgment. And it's again, like when you do a story, that story's for you. It's not for like, oh, if I post this, then I'm going to get this many views and I'm going to get this. No, it's just share something.
Yeah. And I think as well, being authentic, isn't it?
It truly is. If the only way you can be authentic is by being your true self, and being your true self online is just as much as being your true self. And, you know, that sort of thing. There's no point pamping her up in that, because at the end of the day, I always find who you are online is who you want to be in person. Someone like, you know, Sarah, you've met me in person. Like, I'm the same person I am online than I am in person, because I don't want to get caught out.
Yeah,
like,
I'm the same.
in London, I get knocked on the window like, I know you. I was in Dubai. With seeing my brother, and this random guy comes up to me and knows me. I'm like, he knows my brother, and my brother's like, how does he know you, John? I was like, I do not know. We had a conversation with him, and he was like, you're no different. And I'm like, I don't want to be, because I want to show that you don't have to be someone online to be accepted. They want you to be yourself, because they're actually going to relate to you more when you're being more authentic, and you're showing that, you know, this is what you do and that sort of stuff. It's just way more enjoyable rather than just sharing your holiday pictures or engagements, that sort of stuff. It's like, are you doing that to get likes? Or are you doing that to celebrate your amazing accomplishment that you and your partner had, or whatever it is?
Yeah, you know? It's not, your life isn't quantified by likes. You know, I got to a point on social media where it would be like, if I didn't get X amount of likes, I'd feel like, oh, why don't people like that post? And you start,
and then you're like, oh, I delete it. I didn't get the views. I delete it. And then
and then the more I find, the more authentic I am, you know, even on the post where it's more along the lines of, you know, what I've learned from a challenge I faced, and some of them can be on the verge of being quite deep, because I quite like writing it out sometimes for my own processes as well.
Expression.
It attracts so much conversation to other people that are facing similar challenges, and other people that are similar to me, and you can really form, you know, strong friendships. Or I can gain clients through people relating to things that you face, that they've also faced and they want help with. And like you say, it's so much easier to be yourself, because otherwise it's like, what did I put on that?
That's the thing. It's like, if I wrote this, then what alter ego do I need to step into now? And don't get me wrong, like, I think I've got an alter ego, Captain John, but you know, there's a reason behind it, and the reason behind it is the person I want to show up as. you know, it's always leveling up. It's always been, the two people are authentic, are pure. And if I'm that type of person, then that means it just gives me that extra bit of edge, that extra bit of confidence. But I know it's just me. It's not like I'm needing a substance to get me to that. It's just like, no, it's in your mind, John. You can step into that alter ego because of who you are and the visions and the stories that you tell yourself, and what you watch and what you learn from. And I think it's super important to be yourself, you know, and also acknowledge those who are being themselves as well. You know, if you see your friends sharing and opening up about it, it's like, share that love, appreciate that, because I guarantee you, if you spend time reading it, you're going to learn something and be like, oh shoot, I feel a little bit like this, or I feel for that person, and wow, this has made me thinking about something completely different, but I'm now going on my little journey and understanding and rediscovering that sort of stuff. And that's what happened with me. Like when I shared all about like me doing my post, like struggling with self-doubt, perfectionism, all that sort of stuff, like, you know, people can really relate to that stuff because that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. And it's a story behind it. And, you know, stories are really what can make the world go round. And, you know, it's how we get brought up into this world is stories. The first thing we hear is stories, you know.
yeah.
So
I think as well, you know, if you are your authentic self and people don't like you, or you don't gel with certain people, a bit like back to that acceptance thing, you know, it's okay if people don't like you or you don't like them, or, you know, it's not your people. That's okay. But in life, we often strive to be accepted and liked, and again, quantifying that as success. But actually, not everyone gets on. There's so many different people in different walks of life, and that again is a hard pill to swallow, isn't it? You know, that first time when someone doesn't particularly like you, or you don't get the right vibe, it's like, have I done something wrong? But actually, if you're authentic to yourself throughout this whole journey of life, you can only be that. You can only be yourself.
yeah, and it comes down to, I always see there's three areas. It's a reason. There's someone coming to your life for a reason, a lesson, or a blessing. And sometimes we don't even look at that. We just think, oh, you know, why didn't they like me? And we just go straight to, you know, the reasons. And it's like, it might not be, don't overcomplicate it. It's just a simple area that you can focus on and bring that awareness to. And the only way we do that is by stopping and thinking, okay, well, what's this situation? Did I enjoy the situation? Am I overanalyzing it? Do I need to overanalyze it? It's like, stop, breathe, and just accept. You know, I sent a message to a client. It was like, you know, just feeling anxious. And it was like, right, let's just take an inhale. Right, let's stop analyzing. Now take an exhale and start accepting. And I think so many times we don't. We're breathing, we're getting hot-headed, and we're just jumping to these two conclusions that aren't actually adding up just by negative self-talk. Conscious mind, I call it Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong comes over my mind, takes control. And I don't have control. And, you know, my other conscious mind is Spider Monkey, and Spider Monkey's just like, he can't deal with him. He has to wait for Donkey Kong to calm down to then be able to talk to him. And it's just that always that conversation, but you allowed that to take flight rather than just stopping and just pause, wait, stop. You know, the monks know it best. Just, you know, don't judge, just allow and just sit. And then you'll start realizing that how are you feeling? Because it's, you can judge someone, yeah. But while you do that, you're judging yourself because you're not being your true authentic self.
Yes, because I know from my own experience, you know, when I'm not in a good place, I see people in a different way.
You do. It's a different light because of what you're projecting. Again, how you are inside is who you are outside. So if you're feeling down and groggy and angry and upset, and then you're seeing people and it's just like you can disregard them, you don't want to, but it's literally you just putting out that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something to always reel back to. And all we do is stop, just take a moment to pause for a moment and just listen to yourself and just see what is my next step. Because how I act and how I respond and how I be is up to me.
And sometimes if you don't like certain traits in other people, I found that it's maybe because you share similar traits, or it's things that you do that you don't like about yourself, and you see someone else do it, but you don't realize that you do it and you don't like it about yourself. Again, that sort of self-evolution to recognize, I think as well, acceptance for yourself. If you have, like, I've got a busy mind, accept I've got a busy mind, but put the energies in the right places rather than let it overtake my whole being. You know, learning about who you are, what you like, the way you think. And if you want to change it, it takes time.
It does. It does. It really does. It really does. And you've got to bring that awareness to acknowledging that it's going to take time, like anything. Like a bodybuilding competition, you could be training for months. You've got to acknowledge that and accept that. And when you're accepting on the journey, you've got to trust it and know that, you know, if you're not willing to give up, then you can't never fail. So you're going to fail if you don't give up.
Yeah.
No, and I've learned that massively, and especially my coaching career. You know, when the going gets tough, it gets tough, and you've got to realize that. Yeah, why are you doing this in the first place, John? I said, I did this. I didn't even want to get paid. I just love serving people and helping people. I did that, and then everything, my life then starts taking off because I choose my passion, my purpose, than worry and doubt and fear. You know, if you allow fear to take over your life, it will do it without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I know this as well. I must ask you before we wrap up about when we were speaking initially about coming on the pod, you mentioned dyslexia.
Yes.
Is that something you specialize in, or?
Yeah. So basically, when I was younger, I really suffered with dyslexia, and I always saw it as never really a superpower, never really as a hard thing. And it really made me realize and teach me so much about resilience and perseverance and just keep going. And I always want those who out there who may have it, may not have it, but I always want to know that it's actually an incredible thing that so many people admire. And I think how I learned it in school was like, I was not clever, I was dumb. And people are now admiring me for my imagination, my thoughts, my understanding, and I base it all because of my dyslexia. And I know that dyslexic thinking is so important. So, Made by Dyslexia is a Kate Griggs is someone who I really admire and really feel passionate about what she's creating. And I just always want to give back to them as well, and just mentor them and support them as much as I possibly can. So I always give my help to anyone who has it, and I always want to just show them that it's an incredible talent to have and to admire. And you should be super proud of having it because it's a great gift. If you choose it to be, you can choose it to ruin, and struggle your life. I had dyslexia, and one of my jobs was I was a supercar photographer, and I had to do all the marketing. So I had to write Ferraris, Lamborghinis, all this, all this Italian words and all that sort of stuff. I had no clue. I had to figure it out and learn, and that made me more creative in the way I did it and adapt. I had to adapt, and that's how I think I can overcome fear and worry and anxiety a lot, because I'm just like, John, you can adapt. If you got through that, you can get through this. It's just another challenge. What problem can you do? What problem can you solve? And I go from there. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and to inspire anyone else who is dyslexic to know that you're not alone, and it is an incredible superpower, I truly believe.
What a way to end the pod. That's really nice. It's so nice because it's like anything in life, adapting, overcoming. It's what we do as humans, and you can do it in so many different ways. But if you can do it in a positive way, if you can learn lessons, then it's so much more fulfilling to your journey and to your own development. If anyone does want to follow you on Instagram or reach out, or anything we've covered in the pod, and they'd like to talk to you about it, is Instagram the best place to message you?
Yeah. So I think Facebook's really hard to find me on because of my username. When you were young, we do dots and all that sort of stuff. And it's just like no one can find me. So if you go on Instagram, I've actually got a link so you can go onto my Facebook, and I've got TikTok and that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, Instagram will be the best place to just follow my journey, and just hopefully I'll be able to share some positivity your way as well.
Yeah, for sure. And what's your Instagram handle? I will put it in the description as well.
So it's Jon with no H, so Jon Evans EVANS.inspires.
Cool. Okay. And I will put the pod out on Instagram as well. Sometimes we get people share it on the stories, which is super cool. If anyone has listened and has taken anything from the pod and they want to share it, I'm always grateful for that, and really grateful for your time today, Jon. I think the listeners will take a lot of golden nuggets, as we call it, on the pod.
That's it. I love it.
Thank you. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And thank you so much for the time and me allowing to be here as well. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Jon. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.